Yeah, we can talk a bit more about the Malay Muslim community.
Yes.
As Prime Minister for 20 years,
Yes.
where do you think community has done well and perhaps where we could have done better?
Well, where you have done well is the things which we talked about. Our national cohesion, our social cohesion, our unity is stronger today in large part because the Malay community has played its part and has helped us to manage issues and bring everyone closer together and not become further apart. If you look at the progress in the traditional indicators, portion going to post-secondary education, you are now 80% of the Malay students go on to post-secondary education. If you look at university participation for young adults, that means 20 to 30-ish, you are talking about 20% of that cohort having graduated from university. It's improved a lot over the last 20 years. And I think it will continue to improve because with each generation, you've gone to school, you've completed poly, you know how to make this journey, and you are better able to take care of your kids and encourage your kids to do the same as you and go further than you. So I fully expect this to improve. And you can see it in the workforce. Proportions of PMETs has gone up who are Malay. And it's quite common, you see a Malay engineer, a Malay lawyer, a Malay doctor. Everybody thinks it's quite normal and treats them completely equally because they're equal and up to par and same standard as everybody else. That's how our system works. So I think that these are wins which happen quietly year by year, bit by bit, and you may not notice it, but I think we should be proud of it. You still have issues with incarceration rates, you still have issues with drug rates, drug abuse numbers, you still have issues with dysfunctional families. We are working on them with Comlink Plus, with Mendaki has all kinds of programs. And I think the willingness of the professional, successful Malays to come back and contribute has been sustained in Mendaki, certainly. But you look at the other groups like AMP, they have been able to keep going and build up their programs. AMP is now existing, I don't know, about 30 years. Not quite, but more than about 25 years at least. So these are achievements and these are reasons to hope that we will continue to make progress.
Yeah, there's also issues beyond our shore as well. For example, the Israel-Gaza issue. Views from outside has an impact on the community. So what are your views on this?
It's a reality of our society. It's what I talked about right at the beginning, that compared to before, when the outside could be far away, today the outside is on your doorstep. In a previous generation, if there's war in the Middle East, it's war in the Middle East. We really don't know much about it. You may read in the Berita Harian some reports, but really you don't get the feel, you don't get the smell of the fear and the anger and the passion which is there. But today you see it. You see it on TikTok, you see it on your WhatsApp groups, you see it, people discussing it with one another. You see it also when you get a clip come your way and you don't know whether this came from Gaza or from Chechnya, or maybe it came from somewhere else altogether, nothing to do with it. But you send it to your friends and then everybody gets worked up. So it's a reality, it's the way the world is, it's the way our own society is. I completely understand how Muslims in Singapore have become very aroused by what's happening in Gaza, very distressed. It's unconscionable, it's inhuman. What can you do about that? And you feel for it because, first, you're a fellow human being like everybody else, but also there's a religious element to this feeling because the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is not about religion, but that religion is an element. I mean, you talk about Al-Aqsa Mosque, Jerusalem, and here there is a religious identification. So the Muslims feel much more strongly about this, generally speaking, than the non-Muslims in Singapore. I think others too, young Singaporeans, they are worked up, but I would say if you're a Muslim, that's an extra factor which makes sure you're very, very engaged. And I think we have to recognize that, respect that, understand it, and try to get people to work together so see what can we do to acknowledge these feelings, but to do which is practical and not just performative. You know, I can strike pose, say this, do that, have a demonstration, burn flags. It's cathartic, but does it help people who desperately need help? What will help? You raise donations. I think that makes a difference. We've raised donations generously. The community has contributed. We arrange the donations. I mean, Singapore Red Cross went to Egypt to help to deliver. I think they went to El Arish in Sinai, where the base is. We went further. We decided that we would make a donation. The government would donate. We would make another collection because the donations had been enough. We collected and purchased more appropriate food, medical necessities, and so on. And we delivered it to the Middle East and actually airdropped it on an RSAF C-130, flying from Jordan over Gaza, and we dropped the food and the parcels to the population there, and hopefully help them with their urgent needs, but also show that they got friends. So I think these are practical things you can do. To take a stand, to state what we approve of, disapprove of, we have to do that. So we have taken a stand first at the UN, where we voted for the ceasefire resolutions at the General Assembly repeatedly. Secondly, parliamentary statements and government statements, and make clear what we stand for, what we approve of, what we condemn. And we stand for peace in the Middle East. We stand for humane treatment. We condemn terrorist attacks, including October the 7th, which was unconscionable and abhorrent. We also do not approve of what has happened, and we reject the actions which are taking place in Gaza, the hardship and the misery and the destruction and the innocent deaths of so many people, women and children and old people, from Israeli retaliation in Gaza. That the Israelis have to hit back, that they have to protect themselves and to hit at Hamas, I think they are entitled to do that. But the degree of damage and destruction and civilian casualties and collateral damage, I think that's, whatever the legalities from a humanitarian point of view, that must stop. And we've made that view quite clear. And I think that's the right thing for us to do. And I hope that Singaporeans, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, will understand that. And will also understand the need for us to stay together and to look at it as Singapore, as a national position which the government has to take, even though we will each have different personal attitudes. Which was the reason why MOE, Ministry of Education, embarked on the CCE class in schools. Not to educate people on the Middle East, that's too ambitious a project. It'll take you a master's course to understand that. But at least to understand that something very dramatic and drastic and tragic is happening there, and that we have different feelings about it amongst us, and how do we understand that, process that. I think that was essential.